Welcome to Bear in Mind, the Brown Psychiatry Podcast, clear, current content about mental health. I'm the host, Dr. Tracey Guthrie, Psychiatry Program Director and Co-Editor-in-Chief.
I'm the co-host, Dr. Camila Cosmo, Brown Assistant Professor and Co-Editor-in-Chief.
Hi, and I am Dr. Natalie Duke, Psychiatry Resident and Script Editor for today's episode.
Hello, I'm Kelly Holder, and I am a guest today and the Chief Wellness Officer for the Warren Alpert Medical School.
We are really happy to have you. Thank you.
Very nice to meet you or to see you again.
First, a content warning.
In this episode, we may talk about sensitive topics, some of which you may find triggering. Our only purpose is to provide education and information. Our content is not to be considered medical advice. Wellness consists of practices to achieve optimal health for individuals and groups, focusing on enhancement and active integration of physical, psychological, emotional, social, spiritual, and economic dimensions. It involves activities that promote well-being, with both concepts being intrinsically linked. According to the World Health Organization, well-being encompasses quality of life as well as the ability of people and societies to contribute to the world in accordance with a sense of meaning and purpose.
Supporting a wellness culture that prioritizes mental health is critical for promoting well-being. Encouraging open dialogue, raising awareness, and destigmatizing discussions around mental health, as we are doing here today, ensure that individuals feel supported and empowered to prioritize their mental well-being.
To explore this topic today, we are delighted to welcome Dr. Kelly Holder. Dr. Holder is a clinical psychologist with postdoctoral training in behavioral medicine and serves as the Chief Wellness Officer for the Warren Alpert Medical School at Brown. Welcome, Dr. Holder. It's our pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. So let's start with a definition. What does wellness mean, and how can we promote it?
So that's a big question, I think, because as was described at the beginning of the podcast, wellness encompasses so many things. And so to make it simple, I often like to think about mind, body, soul, because people identify with that, our mind, body, spirit. Our well-being are all the tasks that allow us to have overall health in mind, how we think, how we process our emotions in our body, our physical health, and all that comes with it, and spirit or soul, the things that bring us meaning, joy, and connection with the world. So our wellness impacts all of that.
Right. And what can we do to promote it? What kinds of things will encourage us or help us achieve those things?
Yeah. I think that's also a challenging question. When I think about it, the first thing I often want to share with folks is that it takes intentionality, that we have to think about what is it that helps us care for our mind, body, and soul, right? How are we cared for? What are we already doing? And then figuring out how to maintain those things or elevate those things as needed.
And what is the difference between wellness and well-being, and how are both related to mental health?
Yeah. Oh, wow. You all asking all the hard questions today. The way I think about it is wellness is the actions that we take in order to improve our overall health, vibrancy, life. We can even talk about that mind, body, soul we just talked about. Well-being, I see, is a state, right? Well-being is how we are. So our wellness activities impact our state of health or our state of being, our well-being. And we cannot talk about wellness, well-being without talking about mental health because they're intertwined, right? Our mental health encompasses our psychological, emotional, and social aspects of our lives, but we don't live those without all those other pieces about our physical health, our financial health, our occupational health. All of those things really run into our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And so the two are so finely tied together. I think we can use any of those titles and really talk about the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have a question for you as well. How can we promote wellness in our homes, workplaces, schools, as well as our communities?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind around promoting it is our ability to model it. Oftentimes when we talk about promoting wellness and well-being, we want to start with talks and lectures and things we can tell other people to do. But I think it really starts with us as individuals. When someone looks at me, what are the things that I am sharing with them by how I live about well-being? And knowing that how I am in the world impacts all of those people that I interact with. So I think the first place to promote it is making sure it's meaningful to us as individuals and we figure out how to enact those things in our own lives. Then the other thing is being able to make a safe space for conversation around those things. Like we just said, mental health also impacts our well-being, and oftentimes in our workplace, in our homes, those conversations can get hard because people don't believe that it's important or don't believe they're worth the time and care and effort. And so taking the time to let people know that you're worth the efforts that you make to take care of yourself. You're worth the efforts that you take to take care of your mental health. And modeling it, I think, are two of the most important first steps of promoting it.
So I'm going to continue to ask big and difficult questions, like you said. So why do you think wellness has become such a word that we're using, something that we're focusing on? Why is it now, or recently, that this is something that we're talking about?
Yeah, well, I'm going to answer that question with a story.
Okay.
This is my story and my experience, and I believe it might answer your question.
I love a good story.
Yeah. Well, when I first started doing a lot of this work, I had a job. I had started a counseling center for medical students. And part of my job, half of my job was outreach. People wanted me to come to departments and talk about mental health. They wanted me to talk about well-being. And I promise you, every time I walked into the room, I could feel people's eyes roll. I mean, I didn't even have to see their eyes roll. I could feel it, like, oh, here she comes again. She's going to tell us we have to take care of ourselves, talk about mental health. Then the pandemic happened. And when the pandemic happened, I did not feel the eye rolls anymore. I did not see the eye rolls anymore. Folks were asking, how could I better care for myself? And I really think the changes that we experienced because of the pandemic that exacerbated our need. We already had need, and it was exacerbated during the pandemic, really make it this place that we're in now where everyone's asking, what can I do to be well? I don't want to be how I am. I want to feel better. I want to be more well. In addition to that, we've just seen some of the challenges our children and youth have had around well-being and mental health. And I think that also gives people pause to say, hey, maybe there's a different way we could be living or doing things so that we can promote overall health and well-being for our children and for ourselves.
And what are some of the signs that someone needs support for their well-being or their mental health?
Yeah. One of the easiest signs is just a change in what people regularly do. It's some sort of decrease or withdrawal. So if you have a family member who's typically talkative and social and they're not so much anymore, that's a time to check in. When you notice declines in hygiene and how people are caring for their physical bodies, that's a place. If you notice increases in substance use of any kind and more partying, those kinds of things, that's a place to have curiosity and ask questions. Another clear sign is lots of conversation around hopelessness or feeling like, wow, I just can't get through this. A lot of challenging conversation and blue light conversation where it hadn't been before. That's another place to take notice. And I think it's important that we notice these changes in the people we love, the people that we work with, and take a moment privately with them and say, I've noticed X, Y, and Z. I'm concerned about you. And listen, hear what's going on, hear more. There might be something simple going on that they can share, or there might be something more deeper or more difficult that's impacting their mental health and well-being going on.
Interesting. And how might someone protect or improve their mental well-being?
Protect.
And how can they improve?
Protect and improve. So I'm going to start with the protect first. There are several skills that we can use that can create a better buffer around us for the harms that come just for living the kinds of life we live, right? If I just look at you all here in this room, I'm sure you can think of examples of things that make it difficult for you to care for your mental health. Could it be job challenges or family challenges? Like we have all these things that just come up in our lives. And so there are some things we can do to protect or create a buffer. So the first thing that I will start with is a category that I used to call basic self-care. But the truth is there's nothing basic about it. These are the things that we do on a regular basis that help us sustain life. Our eating, our sleeping, our hydrating, our hygiene, making sure that there is space for those things and we're taking time for these things. And I used to call it basic, but it's not because I'm sure you all can attest to there being times where you don't take breaks to drink water or eat, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so we have to make space for it. Sometimes as we're going after these higher level goals, it keeps us from doing the very things that will aid us in sustaining life. When I did more practice as a clinical psychologist, one of the main things I would always ask about is sleep. There was no way I was going to help someone with depression or anxiety if we could not get them to sleep. And so it sounds really simple, but these are the building blocks of our own well-being and our mental health. Indeed. And so that's the place I would start. That's number one. Number two is around our relationships. We are made to make meaning and have interaction with folks. And so we have to figure out how to have the best of relationships with those closest to us, those we live with, we're in romantic relationships, those we work with, and then having a component because there's someone we should be serving. I don't like really using the word should, but having people that we support in some way is important to us as human beings. And so making sure that we have valuable relationships on all those levels. And the third thing that I will mention is making sure that we have skills on board that allow us to deal with challenges when they come up. Have we learned some stress management techniques? Have we learned how to think better about things, things that aid us in improving our mindset and our thought patterns around the difficulties that come? Or even physical tools like mindfulness, deep breathing, relaxation, anything that can give us a tool to help deal with the challenges, I think are really important.
How can we find that good balance between work, home, and everything else in between?
Yeah, finding a good balance between all of the things. My confession is that I don't know that there is a perfect balance. It is a constant negotiation, and it takes a lot of self-awareness and self-reflection to figure out what is of most importance or most value during a certain season of our life, and then having enough awareness to figure out how do I negotiate to reach the goals that are most important to me for this season of my life. And so it'd be nice if there was like a one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
But I don't think there is. We all really have to figure out, well, what am I doing right now? What's of value? I'm going through a season. I have children that are teenagers. And so it's made me think about my season with them and what they need from me different from when they were younger. And it has informed what I say yes to and what I say no to at work. What I say yes to and say no to when I volunteer or in my church and those kinds of things, because that relationship is important to me for this season for a certain reason. And so it helps inform how I negotiate all those pieces in my life.
I think that there's a consensus within the world that we live in today. It's very fast paced. And we're also of the mindset that we can have it all equally all the time. And we cannot. And I think that that's very important to say and to emphasize is that you have to fluctuate. Sometimes you have to prioritize more than others. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But that's a important distinction for decisions you make as an individual in your family life, in your professional life, what is paramount.
Yeah.
And that does need to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
It cannot be constant
No.
throughout your life. And so you do have to make different changes. My question to you is about, we've been talking about our own activities that we can do, the things that we can personally do to impact our own wellness, decisions we make, the activities we engage in, the things we focus on. Yeah. Are there things that you think structurally that exist in organizations, in our society that impact our wellness that we should highlight so that people know it when they see it and it can make different decisions around it?
Yeah. And you promised you'd continue to ask big questions, hard questions. And I think this is an important one because a lot of we spend most of our lives at work.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Most of our lives are spent at work. And so where possible, organizations and systems, I think it's valuable for them to think about their employees and how they can create structures that can improve individuals' well-being. Mm-hmm. There's lots of research and lots of talk around these concepts. One of the things that's come to the top that I think is really important, which links to some of the personal things I talked about, is that connection and meaning, creating an environment where folks can connect with each other and build some meaning around the work that they do has found to be very valuable for individuals' well-being long-term. Other things have to do with bureaucratic tasks, right? Mm-hmm. What are the tasks we're asking folks to do? Can they be changed? Can they be automated? What could be reduced? Because those are the tasks that most folks haven't chosen to with the job.
Right.
It comes along with the job, but it's not the goal of the job, right?
Right.
And so organizations figuring out how to manage those things in order to increase the efficiency or the ability to do the work that workers have come to do is another place where organizations can make change. Mm-hmm. And the other is around mental health stigma, well-being stigma, being able to say, we're all human beings, and here are resources, and making sure resources are readily available to employees that will enhance their well-being and take care of challenges when they do come up around their mental health. I think those are some of, the lower hanging fruit that organizations can do, or structures can do to kind of help folks.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about stigma and making things accessible. Let's talk a little bit about that and what's your understanding about mental health stigma? Like why does it exist? And can you give us some examples?
Sure. So mental health stigma is when individuals have misconceptions, fears, or false ideas about what mental health is or mental illness is, and they act those things out by using language that prevents folks from asking for help or even behaviors that excludes individuals that they might think have a mental health or other challenge. Some of these things have come along with within our culture, and so there's some of these beliefs beliefs have been held for a very long time about just what mental health is, if it even exists, if people are weak, if they have challenges in that area. And so I'm trying to think of a good example, but I know that it comes up often, especially when people have a change in their own behavior. They're not sure what it is. But just the mention that it could be mental health related, depression, anxiety, those kinds of things creates fear. Like, no, it couldn't be this. That couldn't be. Like, I don't have that experience. I'm weak if I have that experience, or it would disqualify me for something. And folks don't say that just because it came to their mind. It's because of the messages that they've gotten from others.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's so fear-based. There's a lot of fear, which leads to like all of the things that you just sort of said. And some of that fear is based in ignorance, not knowing that these illnesses are just like physical illnesses. They can be treated. And really holding on to some distant, rather archaic view that we've had about mental health from the past, and how it's very different now, fortunately.
Yeah.
And we are wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the impact that mental illness stigma might have on well-being, and how can we fight against it?
Yeah. Well, we know for sure that the stigma prevents individuals from seeking help, right? And that's a problem. Because oftentimes we need people to raise their hands and say something is going on so they can get help, especially in the earliest of stages of mental illness and those kinds of things, right? When someone can self-identify and ask for help, it helps us help them earlier, and that's a good thing. And we also know that stigma divides relationships. It keeps us from being connected to folks. It keeps us from creating communities that are thriving and communities that are inclusive. And so stigma really hurts all of us. It hurts all of us because in the end, folks who need help don't get help. We lose out on positive relationships. And then we have communities that are not as whole as they could be if we didn't have those stigmas. So some of the ways I think that we could fight against it is, one, we have to hold some awareness. Take the time, understand what mental health is, understand what mental illnesses are, learn about these things and understand them for what they are, just like other physical illnesses that folks can have. The other is, I'll go back to the modeling again, being able to recognize symptoms in your own self, ask for help, and where you feel safe to being open about it. I sought help. I'm getting help. I'm reaching out for help. Our ability to share those things and talk about it makes room for someone else to do it too. And I think that's really, really vitally important. The other thing that I think could be really positive is for folks to take the time to learn skills on how to help someone else, how to recognize symptoms and how to help someone else. So we can have those conversations with someone and say, hey, I noticed this thing. I'm concerned about you. And this is why I might be concerned, because I learned that these things could be symptoms of other things that are going on. And there's no shame here. I want to be able to support you and help you. And also knowing resources that we can point people to.
And so, we definitely have heard a lot about the mental health crisis. And I just want to understand, what is your understanding about this crisis?
Yeah. You're right in that we hear that term a lot and always not quite so sure what people are talking about in particular. But what I will say, what comes to mind to me is that there is a knowledge that mental health treatment, accessibility to treatment can sometimes get really challenging for folks to have access or to understand where access is. And with increasing mental health rates and increasing need, and maybe not enough people fully understanding what mental health is so we can be the supporters that we are, it can balloon and look like can be a crisis in the sense that everyone who's needing help doesn't know how to get help or where to have access to help. And so those are kind of the images that come to mind for me when I hear the term mental health crisis.
Yeah. So are there things that we can do at home or at work to support the mental health of those around us?
Yes, for sure. I will repeat something I said earlier, but I think modeling is really important. We have to take care of our own mental health. We have to take care of our own well-being in order to help others. One, as a model, but number two, our capacity to care for others tops out at the level at which we've taken time to care for ourselves. So we have to have some skills and tools on board for ourselves as we think about caring for those in our family. The other things that are important is having knowledge of signs and symptoms of mental health challenges and an awareness of strategies that bolster or increase our own well-being. That knowledge, we can practice those things in our homes, and we can encourage those things by the kinds of conversations that we have with folks and the way that we talk about our own well-being and mental health. I think those two things are really important.
I hear we talk a lot about modeling and, modeling behaviors, but I just would like to know, what does that look like and how can we put that into practice?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. When I say modeling, now that I think about it, it could sound pretty fancy. But really what I'm saying is practice your own good mental health and wellness practices. Just practice them. What is important for you, and do it in a way that those in your family, your world can see. And sometimes in some situations, you might even have to state it out loud. So, within your family context, I'll give my example. Some of the things I do is I exercise regularly. Now, it could happen that none of my children or anyone notice when I'm exercising, but sometimes I'll make an announcement. I'm going to exercise now. I'm now doing my yoga. I'm now meditating. Please leave me alone and do not bother me until I'm done, right? But that gives a sense that, wow, she does this regularly. This is happening. Maybe it's something that's important. And talk about why I do it. I'm much better off if I've taken that time. Oh, I can't help you now. I need to take care of my exercise, and then I'll get back to you. That's one simple practice, but now I'm teaching my children and the others who live in my home or visit that my well-being is important to me. And one of the ways it's important to me is by how I care for my body. And so just that practice can impact them. And my hope is that they'll take on some of it, not just because I've told them that it's a necessity, but they see me doing it and say, oh, there's value there.
And I'm wondering, could you talk a little bit about your experience as the Chief Wellness Officer and the initiatives that you and your team have promoted at Brown and how this has impacted our community?
Yeah, that's so. In my role as Chief Wellness Officer at the Warren Alpert Medical School, I've been able to do some really cool things with our student population. One of which I'm really proud of is that we initiated opt-out wellness checks for all of our incoming medical students. And I like this initiative very much because we have normalized the idea that having a check-in just about your well-being is important. They have to cancel their appointment if they decide they don't want to come. And we just talk about their overall well-being, some major themes that come up for folks within mental health, how they're caring for themselves, what does their support system look like. And it's almost like a one-on-one orientation. What kind of resources do you need? It could be tailored to that student in particular, given what their physical demands are or whatever it is that they're wanting. They can get that information in that visit. And so that's one of the initiatives that I like very much. We do a lot of lunch and learns where we talk about all sorts of dimensions of well-being. We have work to make some structural changes within the curriculum that support students having time to take care of their well-being. And so the other thing I have to mention is that we had our first suicide in healthcare conference this year. And it was amazing because we had not just our students, but folks from our affiliated health systems there. And we could have these big conversations about all these aspects of our well-being that do impact suicidal thoughts and ideation and how people can reach out for help and get support should those things happen. And I'm pleased to say that following that conference, the conference served as an anchor point so that we can have more of these discussions throughout the year. And so it wasn't just one and done, but it was made it part of our conversation within the medical school. And what makes that nice is that there are now more opportunities to say well-being is important, mental health is important, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about all of these things because on the very end of the spectrum, in the most extreme of cases, we want to make sure those things don't happen, which is suicide, right? Mm-hmm.
I just am wondering, in the big grand scheme of things, when we have to, say we have an individual or a friend that is struggling right now, how would you say to be direct about their struggles in a very loving and meaningful way?
Yeah. I really like the idea of having one-on-one time with someone who's important to us and letting them know that we care. I'm concerned about you. And being able to point out the reasons why you're concerned, stating them without any blame, shame, or guilt, just what you've noticed, and letting someone know that you care and you're concerned. You will never lose letting someone know that you're concerned. What they decide to do with that conversation will be up to them. However, I've heard many stories of folks who have had those conversations and they look back and say, these are the people who cared about me because they took the time to let me know that they were concerned. And it's valuable. So
it's powerful. It's very powerful for someone to say that they're concerned and they're worried or they're scared. Those are very powerful things to say. Yeah. Very important point.
Thank you very much, Dr. Holder. We really appreciate having you here. It's our pleasure. Thank you. Now, a take-home message to bear in mind.
So by promoting open conversations and engaging in self-care and standing against stigma and working on structural changes in our environments and our organizations, we can contribute to an environment where mental health is valued, supported, and protected for everyone. Recognizing the significance and impact of mental health on well-being and quality of life helps us create more compassionate and resilient communities where everyone has the resources and opportunities to thrive.
Another big take-home point that I want everyone to leave with is that if you or a loved one is having any type of suicidal thought, please feel free to contact the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can call or text 988 or access 988lifeline.org. The Lifeline is a 24-hour toll-free phone line. You can also go to the nearest emergency room and ask for help.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information related content, please check out our Instagram, X, Facebook, and YouTube channels. Bear in mind the Brown Psychiatry Podcast. Thank you.